Welcome to the continuation of commerce. We're going to start a topic called transport. So transport is one of the aids to trade. So what is transport? We just focus. So transport or transportation can simply be defined as the movement of people and goods from one place to another. So what are some of the relevance or importance of transportation to people who are engaged in business or commerce? First, of course, it is an aid to trade, which simply means it assists trading. Okay? In a way, it also improves standard of living. Instead of you moving from point A to point B, you can make use of transport to get there. Therefore, the standard of living is improved. Also, in international trade, it's not possible to make trade happen without transportation. Think of it in this way: you want to buy things from Australia, and Australia is not connected to Zambia by land, so you need some special mode of transport, either by sea or by air, for you to receive the items. So international trade is not possible without transportation. Okay. So we start with modes of transport. Okay. So these are the common four modes of transport, that is road, rail, air, and sea. Okay, so in this video, we're going to concentrate on each of these, looking at advantages and disadvantages. And then in the next video, we're going to take a look at less common modes of transport. Okay, I won't mention examples, but that's what the next video will focus on. This video focuses on the common modes of transport: road, rail, air, and sea. Okay, so we're going to start with road transport, which can be defined as the movement of people, raw materials, goods, and equipment by road. Okay, so basically the movement of people and other items by road, that is road transport. Okay, so what are the advantages of road transport? What makes it so important, so different from other modes of transport? So the first is it is cheap for shorter distances. Okay, so if you want to move from point A to point B and point A and B across, the best mode of transport is road transport. Okay, it is also quick for shorter distances, and also it is possible to do door-to-door delivery. Okay, you are selling cakes, you want to send cakes to the customer, you can send the cake to their doorstep using road transport. Okay, so that's an advantage. To understand or appreciate this, think of other modes of transport that we have not discussed, such as air transport. Okay, you cannot just fly a plane to your customer's door. Okay, but a vehicle, you can take it there. You can take the parcel to the customer's door, right? So that's an advantage of road transport. Another advantage is when using road transport, minimum documentations is involved. In short, it does not involve too much paperwork. Okay, it does not. For example, when you want to use Yango to move from point A to point B, there's just maybe you just have to use the application to get the driver, that's all, and later pay that driver. Okay, there's no much paperwork, there's no need for a passport, etc. Okay, it is flexible, smaller and larger quantities can be transported to most of the regions. So there are some modes of transport which are just good for big quantities, but road transport can transport both small and big items. Therefore, it is flexible. Also, it is almost available throughout the day or at any time. So we can say there is round-the-clock availability, or you can use the terms that you are comfortable with, like you can access it at any time, okay? Okay, so now what are the disadvantages of road transport? So first, it is expensive for long distances and heavy loads. It is also slow for long distances, and it is affected by topography and climate. Topography is landmark. Okay, so if there are mountains, then it's not going to be good to transport using road transport. Okay, it is also affected by weather conditions and traffic congestions. Okay, sorry, I was using the word affected. It's supposed to be affected. It's supposed to start with a. Affected, not affected. Okay, there are different words, affected and affected. So I meant to say to write affected. Okay. It also creates pollution. As vehicles are moving, they end up polluting the environment through the exhaust fumes. So next we look at rail transport. The largest rail company in Zambia is Zambia Railways. Okay, its rail line is from Livingstone to Chilvawombwe. What is rail transport? So rail transport is the movement of people, raw materials, goods, and equipment using the rail line. So in this picture, this is the rail line, and this equipment on top of the rail line, as we all know, is a train, right? So this is rail transport. Okay, so what are the advantages of rail transport? So first, it is cheap for long distances. Okay, so if you want to transport some maybe chairs from Livingstone to Kitwe, you can take advantage of rail transport. It is cheaper than any other mode of transport. Okay. It is quick again for long distances, okay, as compared to other modes of transport. Okay. It is good to carry bulky cargo. Okay, it's not good if you want to send a piece of cake to your client who is in Ndola and you're in Livingstone. It's not good, but for clients who are very far, it's very good. I mean, for sending items that are in large quantities, bulky cargo, it's very good, like chairs, fridges, etc. Okay, or if it's cakes, a lot of them. Okay, so this one is not affected by traffic. Okay, it is not affected by traffic because once it starts moving, it will keep on moving. There is no any other traffic on its path. Okay, it does not create pollution in cities. In the old days, trains used to create pollution, but the new trains are better as compared to vehicles. So it does not create pollution in cities. This is not an advantage for business per se, but for the environment. Okay, so special transporters may be provided for different specialized items. Okay, so what this means is, for example, if you want to transport blocks for building a house, they can provide special containers called wagons where those blocks can be put. If you want to transport acid from point A to point B, they can provide other containers which are round in shape, which are good for commodities like acid. Okay, so they can provide special transporters for specialized items. Okay. It is especially suitable for low value and high volume cargo. Low value but high volume cargo, meaning that the cargo you want to transport is not expensive, but it's a lot. Okay, so low value but high volume. For example, timber. Okay, timber may not be expensive, but if you want to transport in large quantities, you can use rail transport. But items like phones, okay, you have 1,000 phones, okay, they are high value, okay, they are high value items, okay, even if they are, the volume is huge, they are not good. They are not good to use rail transport, okay. So high value items are not good for rail transport, but low value goods are good for rail transport. So you need to learn how to reason, because in the exams they can give you a scenario like Mr. Chikanda wants to transport Mawisi from point A to point B. Okay, what mode of transport can Mr. Chikanda use? So you have to think, okay, is Mawisi a high value item or a low value item? Then you have to think in those lines. Okay, it's not just about defining, giving advantages. No, sometimes they will test how you can apply concepts. That's what grade 12 is expected. Grade 12 thinking is expected to be. Okay, so the examiners will test how you analyze, how you apply concepts, not just answering, defining, stating advantages and disadvantages. No. Okay, what are the disadvantages of rail transport? Okay, so the first is it involves a lot of documentation when you compare it with road transport. Okay, also there's need for loading and unloading cargo so many times. Okay, also trains cannot go anywhere. They can only go where there is a rail line. So, for example, Chipata, I think, between Lusaka and Chipata, there is no rail line, so you can't transport goods to Chongwe, for example, which is between Lusaka and Chipata. For those who don't know the location of Chipata, Chongwe, and Lusaka, the point is the rail transport can only go where there is a rail line. If there is no rail line, then it cannot go there. Okay. And it also moves only according to schedule. Okay, so for example, the Zambia Railways trains, they move on Monday, and it depends. For example, in Kitwe, it's Friday, Saturday. Yes. Livingstone, it's Monday, if I'm not mistaken. So they move according to schedule. You cannot push that you want your goods to be transported at this time, so the goods should be transported at that time. No, that's not how it works. Okay, they have a specific time where they have to move. The reason is a train is very long. Okay, it can equal to maybe 20 trucks. Okay, so all of them have to be filled with goods. That's when it will start moving. So they have planned schedules that they stick to. Okay, and it's very expensive for short distances and small quantities. It's not advisable to use the train. Also, sometimes it is located out of cities, so depends on road transportation. What this means is, for example, if you are in a city where there is no, most of the times, there is no line in cities. Not in Zambia. Most of the cities in Zambia have lines, have rail lines. Okay, but there are some that do not have rail lines. In that case, for you to move your goods from where business is, which is in the cities, you have to transport to the rail line using other means of transport such as road. Okay, so it depends on other means of transport as well for it to work properly. Also, there is high capital cost of maintenance of trucks and trains. Okay, so to keep the rail line fit for such movements and trains, to keep them fit, the maintenance cost is very high. So next we look at air transportation. Okay, so air transportation is the movement of people, raw materials, goods, and equipment using airplanes, right? So what are the advantages? So the first is it is very fast. Okay, of all the modes of transport we have discussed, in fact, of all the modes of transport, it is the fastest. Okay, also there is safe handling of cargo. It is not affected by weather, whether it's raining or it's windy, it will not be affected by weather. Okay, rail transport can be affected by weather. Okay, when sometimes when there is heavy rains, they can wash away the rail line, making it difficult for the train to pass. Okay, even road transport is affected by weather. For example, in those countries where there is snow, if it is there's been too much snowfall, it's difficult for vehicles to move. Okay, so the two modes of transport can be affected by weather, but not air transport. Okay, also there is no much documentation involved. There is documentation for you to travel or to send items using air transportation, but it is not as much as compared to rail transportation or sea transportation, which we're going to discuss next. Okay, but as compared to road transportation, the documentation for air transportation is a bit too much. Okay, but as compared to other modes of transportation, it is not. Also, there's less parking requirements. Okay, also because it is safer, there's no need for expensive insurance, so less insurance costs. It is especially suitable for high value and low volume cargo. So for the rail, I said it's good for low value, high volume, but for air, it's opposite. Okay, high value and low volume, such as phones. Okay, so it's good for transporting items that have got high value, but they don't consume too much space, because the aeroplane does not have too much space as compared to the train, for example. Finally, it is used for urgently required goods. So what are some of the disadvantages of air transport? The first that you and I know to be true is it is expensive. Okay, air transport is expensive, no joke about that. It also carries a limited weight and size of cargo. Okay, because it has to go in the air, so the weight has to be considered. It cannot carry anything. Also, the size, it's very small as compared to trains and ships. Okay, so it carries a limited weight and size of cargo. It relies on other forms of transport, meaning that you cannot do door-to-door delivery with air transport. When it reaches the airport, maybe something has to pick the cargo to the destination, just like the train. It causes noise and air pollution. Okay. There is also a threat of hijacking. Okay, that is unauthorized people being on board and then taking over the train, and then they do whatever. Taking over the plane and then do whatever they want. They can steal the cargo. They can even do some bad things to the passengers. Okay, so that's another disadvantage. And there's also a high possibility of total loss of life and property when an aeroplane crashes. Okay, this point I think I've mentioned it already about the space, limited space. Okay, so next we look at sea transportation, which is basically the movement of people, raw materials, goods, and equipment on water. Okay, now this type of transport is not that much common in our country, since it's a landlocked country, so there are no seas or oceans nearby. But we do have lakes like Lake Tanganyika, which is of course course shared by many countries, and therefore sea transport is common there. Okay, it's a lake, but the type of transport is classified under sea transport. Okay, so we're going to go a bit in details to understand the types of equipment that are used on sea transport. Okay, so the biggest of them all is called a 60,000 metric ton mother vessel. As you can see, it has lots of containers. Okay, so later we're going to start containers, the topic of containerization. Okay, so there's also a 40,000 metric ton mother vessel. Then there's also a small one, this one, which is called a connecting vessel. So these are the different types of the equipment that can be used on sea. Okay, but they're not the only ones. Of course, as we know, we have a boat. So let's take a look now at all of them. So we have the mother vessel, which ranges from 40,000 metric ton to 60,000 metric ton. We also have a connecting vessel, that small one, it is 20,000 metric ton. Okay, these ones they are used at deep port. Okay, or they are used the deeper parts of seas or oceans, so that's where they pass. Okay, we also have the barge, which is just a small ship used on shallow port. Okay, where it's not that. We also have ferries. These ones they are common in their boats, in short. Okay, so they're used in shallow seas and small distances. Okay, and of course the normal boats now, which are used in rivers, that is inland transportation. Okay, like on Kafue River you can use a boat. Okay, so we have boats, ferries, barge, and the big ships. Okay, now we look at the main types of ships. Okay, so what we are from looking at are different types of equipment that are used in sea transport, such as ferries, boats, okay, and ships. Okay, now here we're going to look at different types of ships, or main types of ships. Okay, so the first is called a passenger liner. So this passenger liner normally is used to carry passengers, mail, and some express cargo. Okay, so the targets are passengers, but it can also carry a bit of express cargo. Okay, the second is called a cargo liner. This one is used to carry variety of cargo and sometimes few passengers. So its main target item that it carries is cargo, but it can also carry a bit of passengers. The other one is called a tramp. So a tramp is a cargo ship which does not sail to any special place. It is a cargo ship, okay, meaning that it is used to carry cargo, but it does not sail to any specific place. Okay, it is normally chartered. To be chartered means it is rented. You can rent it. Okay, we're going to learn more about chartering later. Okay, there's also what is called a bulk carrier, which is especially built to carry a particular type of cargo, for example, oil. So the whole ship is designed just to carry oil. That's a bulk carrier. There's another one called OBO ship. OBO stands for all bulk oil. All bulk oil. So it is an all bulk oil carrier. It carries loose materials. Then there is also an interesting one called RON, not roll-on. Yeah, RON, roll-off, RON, roll-off. So this is a highly specialized ship that allows loaded vehicles like trucks, trailers, passenger cars, etc. So this one carries, it's a ship that carries vehicles, trucks, trailers that are loaded. Okay. So what are the advantages of sea transport now that we understand more about it? So it is cheap per unit of cargo for longer distances, okay? Highly suitable for bulk cargo. It also has refrigerating and other facilities available, okay? So if the items that need to be in a refrigerator, you can transport them using sea transport. Also, there is containerization. The containers, you saw them on the mother vessel. So you can, if you want, you can rent a container so that all your items are put in that container. It is not affected by topography, that is the landmark. So it is not affected by topography, that is the landmark, like the way road transport is affected by topography. The disadvantages of sea transport are it's very slow. It's very slow. For example, to transport items from China to Zambia by sea, it takes 7 to 14 days, okay? Sorry, by air, it takes 7 to 14 days. That's not how long the plane flies. No, it is just, you know, the documentation, the paperwork and everything, okay? Otherwise, China, Zambia may take less than a day, okay? But for the sea, it can take up to 3 months for the items to reach Zambia. So it's very slow, okay? Also, it's very rigid, okay? Unlike the flexible and like road transport, which can transport small and big items. It is also affected by weather conditions, okay? It needs a lot of documentation among all modes of transport that we have looked at so far, okay? There is also a lot of handling of cargo that is involved as compared to air transport. Also extra cost for insurance and parking. It's not, the insurance is not as cheap as air transport, okay? And again, just like air transport and rail transport, you cannot transport exactly from one point to another. So it needs other modes of transport. So this marks the end of transport part 1. See you in the next lesson.